Let's welcome Ami Pascual. I was going to say her topic is grant writing for nonprofits and businesses. So listen up, this is money for all the businesses and nonprofits out there. Let's go.
Brava, AssistNa. This is a very spectacular event that's also, in a way, it helps us have almost like a one-on-one conversation. And I want to start the conversation by talking about not the art of fundraising, but the start of fundraising, which is basically the hardest part. So I'm going to be discussing, unfortunately I won't be able to get a chance to talk about how you start a small business, but I can get into that later because I didn't want to go beyond my 11 minutes. But how to at least expand upon a project you already have or a nonprofit you just formed like AssistNa. And I'll go into the numerous and ever-changing, there's always something new, AI, ChatGPT for collaboration, communication, and learning. We already went over my background, but I noticed as I was looking at it really quickly that as much as I was doing all this financing and adding and raising funds, I did not add correctly. So I was actually in the Bay Area for only 17 years, but I was originally, besides the Philippines, from West Long Beach, and then moved to Downey, UCLA, Berkeley. Now I'm in Monrovia. So I'm a proud San Gabriel Valley resident. And people say fundraising is an art, but in my opinion, it's not art or science, but a series of actions that start with a plan, and even when plans don't go as expected, we have backups. So I'm going to talk specifically about the three main points with the very specific details of how to create something accessible, because sometimes things are written so long or with too many details and we don't really end up getting straight to the when do we need to do this by, who's responsible for doing it, and how are we going to course correct if something changes. So details of fundraising for nonprofits, in effect, is really four different things. Grant proposals and contracts, usually the largest way that you can fund your nonprofit, and to some extent your small business too. And then followed by major donors, and that could be the major donors for AssistNa today. It could be corporations, it could be City National Bank, it could be Uncle Fred, who requested something, individual donors, or anywhere, it's up to the nonprofit to set up what they consider individual donors. It could be $1 to $32, It's also the easiest way to get someone to give because it's a smaller amount. And then lastly, events, sponsorships, and ancillary income, which is where the creativity of earning income and being a business owner comes in. I'm giving an example of a template, and it's a little small, the print here, but I am really wanting to highlight here the importance of going straight to the activities. So for example, grant proposals and contracts. This is very specific language in the plan about how to prospect foundations, private, public, family, corporate, government agencies and contracts, and then going to pretty much like a to-do list that includes, for example, under grant proposals, identifying and rating them, these prospects, and then creating this, so to speak, pitch or case statement. Like I'm using AssistNa as an example. Activity 2 here, under grant proposals, develop written materials that showcase programs. Another way to use writing is to develop or publish opinion pieces and outlets focused on small business diversity, as an example. And then these are only 3 or 2 of many activities. Write at least, what I found when I was writing is I have to write at least 20 letters of intent, which is the beginning introduction to a funder. Then it's almost like matchmaking. If they decide, oh, I think I like your programs, then they budge for proposal. So of 20 letters of intent, In this specific case, let's say I plan to raise $400,000 for AssistNa, at least those 20 could generate, either 5 to 10 grants that will come up with funding for 400,000. With strategy 2 here, major donors, is basically a smaller amount, 15,000, because it's more realistic. Same concept of rating prospects and then identifying one major donor who can then attract other donors. Like one idea specifically here is to come up with a film screening, happy hour, or a dinner party sponsored by an AssistNa partner office. And then lastly, social media influencers to elevate the visibility. I'm skipping the other strategy and ending with event sponsorship and ancillary income. Again, with the goal of raising visibility, because without that, without anyone knowing we exist, then it becomes the best kept secret. So the idea here is to have major prospects underwrite these campaigns and on either an annual or ongoing basis, and then using communications, CX, UX, customer experience and user experience, platforms across the nonprofit, and to always thank sponsors regularly. So important. What you did today, right away, that made a big difference. That will make a big difference to funders. And then tracking, super important. It's really a to-do list with someone held responsible for implementing it or a team. Typically in fundraising, it's a database. This is what I found works for most nonprofits with a budget of $500,000. At least have time staff doing database. A majority of it is someone really doing the writing and the pitching. And then for the most part, we're talking about staffing the changes, but it's really important to have the right team to do these tools and strategies. And then just to sort of wrap up in the next few slides about statistics, $499.3 billion has been given to nonprofits and charities just in 2022, with the largest giving coming from individuals, so those individual donors, like almost 64% of it. And I was surprised. I really thought it was going to come from foundations, but it was coming from donors. Only 21% of total nonprofit giving came from foundations. And then in sectors, dollars went, again in 2022, mostly to religion, followed by human services, 14%. Is that where AssistNa would fall under, human services? Yeah, technical assistance, probably in that range, and then education, grant making, and then health. I was really surprised with the health portion. And the other surprising thing is we thought, I work for a nonprofit now, but we thought the pandemic funding would go down and decrease, but it hasn't. It's remained the same. We had tripled our donations during the pandemic and continued to. So 6 of 9 nonprofit subsectors continue to exceed. So people got used to giving. And then notes and takeaways. This fundraising is adaptability because of this diverse engagement, because of diverse engagement methods, such as getting ready to do mobile fundraising, mobile optimized donation pages. I think that's one way to keep up with how to get people engaged, not just in the mission and vision of the organization, but also just keeping people abreast of causes that are close to their heart. Communicating regularly, AssistNa does that already and does it amazingly well. And then hiring the right staff and resources. I mentioned that earlier about having the right number and accountability check-ins. And then a realistic budget for operating activities combined with backup plans in the event of donor attrition, which will happen, and must be in place prior to implementing anything. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, we do have questions and comments. Thank you very much. We're so happy that you're here and doing what you do in the communities. I've been involved with nonprofits for a very long time, and a lot of nonprofits are broken. You know, the whole model is broken. And what I found is She Angels Foundation does a thing where everybody pays $500 for the year. And they have hundreds of women that have paid $500 for the year. And they give $5,000 grants every single quarter. So they do 4 salons a year, gatherings, that are no cost, that their members can go to. So there's one in December. So we pay $500 a year. But they have money just coming and coming and coming and coming. So they don't have to do any one event to raise the money. They just pay yearly, and then they're able to come. We did raise $190,000. Our movie comes out, Show Her the Money is out. It's coming around to film festivals. But literally, having that model of where people pay once a year has been one of the best models that takes the least amount of work, the least amount of overhead, any of it. Do you feel that that is a sustainable model? And had you heard of that model before? Because the ones that you showed didn't have that particular model. I'm just curious.
Thank you for the information. I have heard of the model before in small business lending where people, but it's not, where people come up with the funding together and then they'll select a business that they will give the money to that year. In fact, when I grew up in the Philippines, we had something like that. In Koreatown, we have something called the Korean Bone Pool. So I think it's similar. It's very similar to that. Just recently, I saw a movie about the near-death experience, and it was funded by the Angel Foundation, I want to say. Is that affiliated somehow?
No.
Okay, all right. But the word angel made me think about also venture capitalists, angel investors. But this is to answer your question, I've heard of it, but I would like to add it to this presentation under the category of ancillary income, but without the overhead.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. If I step into another nonprofit, that's the way it's going to roll. You know what I mean? Because it has the least amount of work with the highest return on investment. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Kathleen, for that. It's very useful information. In my experience, not only here in the United States, because I've had diverse experiences in terms of nonprofits. In the Philippines, we call it non-government organizations. I've also worked with the foreign-funded programs wherein the government of Canada or the US or Australia or Germany, Japan are funding it. So in fundraising, I'd like to stress that it depends on the kind of nonprofit that you build that you are able to raise funds. Because if you are depending on angel investors, that's a different one. There's a so-called, if you don't mind me sharing this with you, it is philanthropy is different from, from 501c3 grants.
Yeah, I think I'd like to explore further. One thing that I experienced when I did something called, oh my goodness, I ran a social enterprise venture. The tax situation comes in. So I don't know what tax categorization that would be, but if there is income earned from this 501c4 or 6 or whatever it's going to be formed, there's going to be some version where the tax man will come knocking. So I think a lot of the models being explored right now involves having a tax attorney. So I think I would be down with exploring it further because we all want to cut back on the amount of time involved in writing something and then trying to figure out if it'll get funded and reporting on it and all of that. But I'd be interested to learn what it's called in terms of the tax. Is it a C4 or is it a
501c3.
It's a C3?
I believe.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'll give you my card. I'm happy with this. Expand that.
If you have any more questions, yes, you do?
Oh, yeah. I didn't bring my card.
Yes.
Oh, we can always email info.
Oh, the video.
Oh, the video.
Yeah. And also you can email us at info@asshana.org to get the information. Yeah, so for anybody who wants to be connected to them, we're also creating some programs after this event so that we can expand on the topics that each of the speaker has.
And that is where we come in. That is one of our fundraisers, that's why we come to the community. You become a member for only $75 a year. You get a free success guidebook, how to build your clientele for life, which is a system that I created, which is free. And at the same time, you have access to experts who are within our network, and that's how we assist you. So for any information, please feel free to connect to AssistNa, info@asshana.org. Because we have a pool of experts that are ready to serve you at any given time. So that is how we want to be reaching out to the community to be the bridge or the hub for assisting people in terms like this, information expertise that are not readily available or maybe things that you don't know. So to make it simple, just contact info@asshana.org. Tell us that you've been here and you wanted more information, and perhaps if you have a question, we can put them all together and have our experts answer it. Would that be okay, your experts? All righty.
Thanks, Nancy, because we're gonna also recognize Ms. Ami Pascual for being here and for being one of our champions for small businesses and for nonprofits.
We are presenting, AssistNa is presenting the certificate of recognition same way as we did to our first speaker, Ms. Michelle Scott, to Ms. Ami Pascual of San Gabriel Valley. See, you didn't stand up earlier. I was calling for people. And here's another medal for champions. And we'd like to thank you from the bottom of our heart for being with us. And I hope you continue to, stay with us and support us in all our endeavors moving forward, and be your next client on grant writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ami Pascual. Again, give her a round of applause. All right. This is an exciting one too. Again, all our speakers are wonderful. Think about all the people that you want to